So nice to be here in this beautiful city, in this beautiful country, but it's a little bit disheartening when you stop and think about one of our most famous citizens and probably the world's most famous journalist is languishing away in Belmarsh prison in the United Kingdom for exposing the crimes of public officials that have gone unprosecuted. And sadly, it's him that's been prosecuted, and we're here to try and get some semblance of justice for Julian Assange. Almost everybody in the world knows about it now, except it seems Scott Morrison, who has done absolutely nothing tangible to ensure Assange's release. Effectively, he's a political prisoner. But we need to stand up and make sure we don't have any more political prisoners. We want people to be able to have intelligent dialogue to bring about better policy, better friendship and trade all over the world.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is our 76th Julian Assange Town Hall gathering. We stand here today painfully aware of the steady encroachment of tyranny and increasingly draconian measures being put in place to curb our freedoms. 10 years ago, the arbitrary detention of a journalist, Julian Assange, signalled to the world that tyranny was descending in the West. Many of us wrongly assumed our justice system would see to it that common sense would prevail. However, Julian's persecution has steadily become more extreme and more ridiculous. The attacks on freedom of the press are becoming more prevalent, and our freedom is being overtly denied more and more each day. 3 years ago, Julian Assange warned us that our freedom was in imminent danger. This week, our Prime Minister signalled that Australia is moving towards introducing the draconian measure of vaccine passports, which will be issued to allow people the right to travel if they have received the new experimental vaccine currently being rolled out. In other words, those who are not vaccinated will no longer have the right to travel. Many have pointed out that once introduced, vaccine passports will act rather like a Chinese-style social credit system by which the government will be able to make our lives very difficult if we wish to maintain sovereignty over our own existence. We need more people to stand up for Julian Assange and realise how vitally important it is to speak up against the tyranny being imposed on ordinary people by powerful interests. A popular video of a British reporter interviewing the president of Azerbaijan is indicative of how the persecution of Julian Assange is sending the world deeper into tyranny. The video shows the president of Azerbaijan seizing on the opportunity to point out Western hypocrisy over press freedom. The persecution of Julian Assange for his journalism has meant that the UK no longer has the ability to lecture other countries on the matter of press freedom. The fact that this video has gone viral with 2.5 million views suggests that people are becoming more aware of the West descending to tyranny. In this regard, the video is somewhat heartening, but we need to intensify our efforts to turn the descent into tyranny around. The best way to fight tyranny is for people to unite peacefully against it. We must be aware that propaganda and all kinds of political stunts are being used to undermine our unity. We must stay with the truth. Julian Assange is completely innocent, and that the evidence he has revealed shows us who the real criminals are. Truth is our power. We must unite on and with the truth. In a few hours, the former UK Ambassador Craig Murray will be sentenced for contempt of court on the spurious grounds of jigsaw identification after using his blog to draw attention to truthful information relating to a court case, which was ultimately found to have been based on false accusations against Alex Salmon, a prominent pro-Scottish independence politician. Craig Murray, a whistleblower and a friend of Julian Assange, has been a reliable source of detailed information regarding Julian's extradition hearing. There's a very real possibility Craig Murray will be sentenced to a prison term. In this climate of advancing tyranny, it is necessary for us to all pay attention to how important voices of truth are being persecuted and silenced. We must show our solidarity with Craig Murray and all other voices of truth. It is becoming clearer to everyone how techniques of character assassination picking on the individual, public mobbing, smearing and vilification that we use to facilitate the psychological torture of Julian Assange are being used against other voices. These techniques are an essential part of the propaganda and must be recognised and called out whenever we see them occur. We must think and speak for ourselves. We must be aware that fear is one way to stop people thinking and speaking. In times when many people stop thinking and speaking for themselves, atrocities occur. With the signs of increasing totalitarianism everywhere, we must question everything our media are so eager for us to believe. We must remember that truth is extremely inconvenient for those with something to hide. Julian revealed much criminality being done in our name, and more of us must call for the prosecution of the corrupt, and more of us must stand up for the freedom of Julian Assange. We must come together over the truth. Our right to know the truth is a single issue we can all be united on. We must see through the propaganda impeding this unity. If we unite over our need to know the truth, we will be strong, and we will certainly win. Peace, human rights and justice are assisted when the public knows the truth, while tyranny, corruption and propaganda are made more difficult. We must drop our attachment to mainstream lies and stand up for the values of free speech and the values of Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange!
Free Julian Assange! Free Julian Assange!
Do you want to say on camera?
Yesterday, Stella Morris shared a BBC interview with Azerbaijan's president. It shows him telling the interviewer that the BBC is in no position to lecture him on press freedom while the UK imprisons Julian Assange. Once the BBC and Australia's ABC and SBS employed hard-hitting investigative journalists who were courageous in their reporting. People like Mark Davis, who gave us a report on Christopher Boyce, who was the whistleblower on CIA involvement in the overthrow of the Whitlam government and infiltration of our unions. Or Andrew Fowler, who gave us Four Corners, Sex, Lies and Julian Assange. Now, many of ABC's journalists are not much more than mouthpieces for the government. Much like their counterparts in the BBC, they spout whatever information is given to them rather than completing their own scrutiny and analysis. On Monday the 3rd of May was World Press Freedom Day. Julian Assange remains in what is 23 and a half hours a day solitary confinement in London prison Belmarsh. This is a prison for the most violent criminals in the UK, the prison for terrorists and murderers. This was not meant to hold gentle journalists who have committed no crime. Assange is a man who lived a life which is the antithesis of violence. His life has been one of shining a light on the evils of corruption and criminal acts carried out by governments and big business. Julian Assange has not been convicted of any crime. He set up WikiLeaks to protect whistleblowers and provide a safe place to report wrongdoings, to ensure those responsible are held to account. Why is he being held in prison when he won his court case against extradition to the United States? Obama did not charge Julian Assange. He felt that the fourth estate, the media, needs to be protected. If they were to charge Assange, it would mean that all media would be subject to the same draconian measures, including the New York Times, Washington Post, so on and so forth. If we have no strong media presence, there will be no accountability to the government or big business. The extradition proceeding was started by Trump and it needs to be ended by Biden. Hypocritically, Vice President Harris tweeted about world press freedom, along with US Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who tweeted, "On World Press Freedom Day, the United States continues to advocate for press freedom, the safety of journalists worldwide, and access to information off and online. A free and independent press ensures the public has access to information. Knowledge is power." While I agree with the statement, the words are hollow and dishonest, while the United States continues its vindictive persecution of Australian Walkley Award-winning journalist Julian Assange. UN Special Rapporteur Nils Melzer replied, "Yes, sir, knowledge is power. So whom are you trying to disempower by persecuting Assange, Chelsea Manning, Snowden, John Kiriakou and other truth tellers, empowering the public? How do you explain to your kids that telling the truth is a crime while torturers and murderers walk free?" Edward Snowden commented, "This would be more persuasive if the White House weren't aggressively seeking a 175-year sentence for the publisher of award-winning journalism of global importance, despite pleas from every significant press freedom and human rights organisation." Assange supporters around the world are punching through the darkness to bring the light of truth to the public. We do this because the case against Julian Assange is wrong. The smears and lies spread about Julian are wrong. We want to right this wrong and get Julian back into the loving arms of his family and friends. Thank you to all the politicians, activists, academics, journalists, doctors, lawyers, and citizens around the world who are asking for the release of Julian Assange. Free Julian Assange. Inmate, our mate, Julian Assange.
Y'all feel it? Oh.
It's clear that our leaders and mainstream media don't care about press freedom. Julian Assange is still in prison for exercising press freedom, while those with the power to do something about it choose to do nothing. Julian Assange discovered the Achilles heel of corrupt power, which is evidence-based journalism. His extreme persecution suggests this. We must free him and ourselves from this corrupt system by informing each other with evidence-based information. A very dirty trick that liars have been getting away with for far too long is to blame those who speak the truth. Julian Assange is completely innocent, but he published evidence so that we can all know the truth. If our political leaders were ethical or caring and had the power to act for the public interest, Julian Assange wouldn't have been made to suffer for revealing crimes against humanity. Julian Assange made the abusers of power feel insecure by making the truth knowable for the public. Julian Assange is an exceptional human being. He and his ideals are worth fighting for. The forces against him are worth fighting against. Stay with the truth and be suspicious of anything said that doesn't have evidence. Propaganda is well thought out. Phrases like "enough is enough" suggest that the punishment Julian Assange has received is acceptable. Julian Assange is completely innocent. He should never have been punished. He will never recover his lost years. Thank you.
That's until the politicians sort it out. And we need to put pressure on the politicians to stand up for the rights of Australia.
On World Press Freedom Day, I stood outside the rear entrance to the ABC Centre in Ultimo, dressed as Julian Assange in an orange jumpsuit that they wear in jail, with a paper face mask of Julian's face and a banner around my neck saying "Julian Assange, hero," and a chain around my neck. And in my hand, I held a large banner that said ABC, villain. My reference was to a Four Corners two-part show entitled Julian Assange, hero or villain. And the reason I stood at the back entrance is I was protesting to those in the higher echelon in the ABC that had obviously condoned this flagrant propaganda. Lies, 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 propaganda, which demonstrated to me beyond any further need that the ABC is a mouthpiece for our corrupt government. Soon after, my solo protest was approached by six, I repeat, 6 New South Wales police officers approached me and attempted to intimidate me and to close down my protest. I was obviously upsetting those in power at the ABC. to some extent, I was glad that I had hit the mark, that I was the thorn in their side, even though the back entrance was virtually unoccupied and nobody but those directors in the ABC saw my protest. Anyway, the police failed in their action because I decided to make a stand, and I looked them all in the eye and I said, today is a sad day. This is World Press Freedom Day, and my ABC has called my police to have me shut down. That is a sad day. Anyway, they persisted, and my voice got louder until finally a crowd started to gather. And the senior police officer said, turned to the junior police officer, who just sniggered. She thought it was some sort of a joke. And I said to her, I walked over to her and I looked her in the eyes and I said, so you think this is a joke? This is not a joke. How dare you? At that, the New South Wales senior police officer asked the 5 other police officers to retreat. And I continued with my protest, because even the New South Wales police know that what they're doing is a crime. And I reminded them that the criminal behaviour outside the back door of the ABC was being perpetrated by the New South Wales Police Force and the Australian Broadcasting Commission. How dare they? Thank you.
Free Julian!
Folks, we've got a quote here by a British member, ex-British member.
We just had, in the last week, World Press Freedom Day, and it's an important day, but people sometimes forget how to bring Julian Assange into World Press Freedom Day. Julian Assange is a person who is almost shining a guiding light for our society, so we understand that there are many people, not just him, who are in jail in both the Western world and the non-Western world as writers, publishers, journalists, what have you. They've published things which have offended the authorities of the day. And when we free Julian Assange, we are sending that guiding light out to authorities all over the world to also free all of those journalists, writers, what have you, who are in jail for publishing.
Only one decision!
No extradition!
There is only one decision!
No extradition!
There is only one decision!
No extradition!
Free, free!
Julian Assange!
Free, free!
Julian Assange!
Free, free!
Julian Assange!
Inmate!
Our mate!
Julian Assange!
Inmate!
Our mate! Julian Assange! Inmate!
Our mate!
Julian Assange!
I am up on a free speech charge. Well, yes it is, it's a graffiti charge. I wrote about Australia's torture of refugees on a horrible Jaguar car notice board, billboard, and it was a shocker. It was an aggressive, nasty, pretend funny billboard, and I thought, well, they're pretending to scare you and then saying, are you scared? Well, you should be scared because we're living in a society that locks up refugees, such as my father was, such as many of your relatives probably were, refugees from other countries. And Australia has signed the Refugee Convention. So it's not refugees that are illegal, it's our government that's illegal. Because the Refugee Convention specifically says that refugees, the laws of border crossings and so on do not apply to them, because a refugee is not like being on a holiday. It's not only on a pleasure cruise. Being a refugee means you are fleeing persecution. Therefore, these rules are suspended. But the ABC and the lawyers and everyone else, they don't tell us that. They just repeat what the Prime Minister says in this demonization of people that's very reminiscent of demonization of Jews in Germany before the Second World War. Very reminiscent. And we should be speaking up. And it's rather ironic that the Refugee Convention, which was drafted in response to the anti-Semitism that drove out people, many people from occupied Europe, that's being attacked by our politicians. What does that make them? What does that make them if they're opposing an anti-fascist measure? I'll tell you what it makes them, but you can work it out for yourself.
Criminals!
We are being sold our pup. We are being told to demonize people who are brave and vulnerable, but mainly brave. This is a danger to all of us, and these people, brave people, are being scapegoated, and it's not on. For any of us who have relatives, and my father was a refugee, it should not be on. So thank you. Please come along. Downing Centre on Friday morning, 9 a.m.
Free, free, Julian Assange. Inmate.
Our mate!
Julian Assange.
Inmate!
Our mate.
Julian Assange!
Only one decision.
No extradition!
There is only one decision.
No extradition!
There is absolutely only one decision.
No extradition!
Free, free.
Julian Assange!
Free, free.
Julian Assange!
Free, free.
Julian Assange!
Inmate.
Our mate!
Julian Assange. Thank you.
outside the great town hall building in Sydney, Australia, in support of Mr. Julian Assange. Gong Steve, what do you feel is the right way of moving forward?
We've got a problem with the media. The media is not telling us
what we need to know for our own good. They're telling us what they want us to know. And so all we can do is communicate with ourselves as we always have in the past. We are locked into being online and we get censored on social media. Our worldview is becoming more and more narrow. If you type in Julian Assange, for example, you will get the mainstream media. You won't get probably won't get WikiLeaks even on the first page. So what you'll get is what The Guardian says about Julian Assange, or the New York Times says about Julian Assange. But you won't get an authoritative understanding of Julian Assange, you'll just get a propaganda view of who Julian Assange is. His mother was on Twitter, which we would get some information from. He has a fiancée on Twitter that says a little bit about Julian Assange. He has friends that he speaks to, like Craig Murray.
Okay, would you say that The Guardian or New York Times or any other news provider, mainstream, is more popular within our societies, or would you say someone like Julian Assange's mother or Julian Assange's fiancé have more influence within our communities?
For the general population, The Guardian and the New York Times and those people have a huge effect. The advertisers will not like to see certain things in their publications because it is embarrassing for them. So if like people who make money out of war, for example, do not want to see anti-war people on where they advertise.
We have to change the culture that we're living in, is what I think.
But how?
Talk to each other.
Yes, word of mouth, talk to your communities. Find out what people think and how you can together make a shift.
And speak truthfully when people don't like what you say.
We are all Assange.